If you're not willing to get hurt, like if I go into a partnership, everything sounds great, things aren't going right, it goes sideways, it's going to happen. Cut your losses and move on. It's going to happen. You are going to lose money. People are going to steal from you. All these things are going to happen to you. And if it doesn't happen, you just weren't playing at a high level. So I just accept that that's part of the game. And going through hard times with partners is when you really find out what you got.
Today on the Exit, I'm excited to introduce a guest who embodies what this show is all about. Justin Freishtat started his career in business, knocking on doors, doing door-to-door sales, battling social anxiety, and working his way all the way up from the ground floor. He went on to build Heartland Foods to an $87 million revenue company right before a successful exit. Now, as a partner at Kearns Marketing, Justin is helping entrepreneurs grow their brand, grow their influence, and grow their income through targeted, laser-focused Instagram and social media marketing strategies. Justin's also largely responsible for raising $10 million in capital to help Safe Space, a AI SaaS company, go public and get onto the New York Stock Exchange. And he's a partner in Pitch Equity Fund, helping institutional investors get access to unique investment opportunities across multiple asset classes. Now, Justin's story is one of resilience, of sales mastery, and of the power of building genuine relationships and connections at scale. He's a firm believer in transparency and adding value, and that those things are the keys to success. So whether you're creating social media content, you're raising capital, or you're preparing your business for its own exit, what Justin shares today on this episode is going to be a game changer for you. So let's jump right in and let's see how Justin went from door-to-door sales to becoming freaking Justin Freishtat, a certified killer in business, in marketing, and investing. This is On the Exit. All right, Justin, man, thanks for joining us, dude. I really appreciate it, taking the time. I know you're hanging out in your buddy's house up in Northern Virginia right now. You're a globetrotter, man. You're all over the place.
Lots of airplanes, but never a dull moment, you know?
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know we connected it's been about 6 months ago, I suppose. And but as we were, prepping to interview you on the show, I couldn't help but be just insanely impressed all over again with everything that you've been able to accomplish. What you've done in business, man, what you've done is pretty remarkable. So I'd love for you, man, just kind of starting the conversation here. Just fill in some of the backstory. I want to hear your story, man.
Yeah, well, if we go all the way back to the beginning, lots of suffering in terms of figuring out who I was and how I was going to fit into this world. Because when you don't really fit into traditional molds, like you can't get through school. Everyone thinks, you got to go to college or, your life's over. Like those are all the things that I was taught and felt. And I did go to college. The only thing that got me in was hockey. Definitely wasn't my grades. And I spent 6 years there and never got a degree and just played out my hockey eligibility and really a summer knocking doors, getting into direct sales is kind of what saved my life.
So what kind of direct sales were you involved in? I mean, what were you selling going door to door?
Started with food and appliances. So if I start listing off everything I've sold door to door, it's probably 100 different products. I mean, we're talking cutlery, cookware, water systems, air purifiers, grills, freezers, mattresses,
Wow.
kind of done it all. So
that's like the toughest kind of sales.
I recommend for everybody, like go, if you want to build some confidence or you don't feel great about social situations, make yourself go knock doors for a summer and you'll be a completely different person at the end of that.
I think, Aaron, you said it, man. It's like,
so knocking on doors. Whew, like I think those just last week, the bug spray guys come. They're knocking on the doors to sell you the packages and everything. I actually bought the package because it was a good deal. I got like the first treatment free or whatever. But I'm just like, man, these guys are just, and they got to do it in the evenings when everyone's home. So they start at like 5 o'clock, because they want to have both people there to make the decision and everything. And they're just grinding till dark, and it's tough. But you learn, right? So it sounds like you probably gained a lot of skills and confidence through that then carried through to your other businesses, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just being able to talk to people and meeting people of all different demographics, you learn about a lot about the world. If you're in a neighborhood of $100,000 houses and then $10 million houses, you start to see just how big the world is, and also stay grounded on how good you do have it for where you are. So I think you learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about society, and just being able to be malleable in social situations is a comforting thing when you can get rid of that anxiety and you can go into a room with anybody
Yeah.
and communicate.
No, that's exceptional. I think one of the biggest, most important skills for any business owner to have is the ability to communicate effectively, to take complex thoughts, ideas, and bring them down to ground level for anybody. I had a mentor a long time ago that told me there's two types of communicators. There's the people that look smart, and there's the people that make you feel smart. And be the guy who makes other people feel smart. Because when you make someone else feel like they kind of came to a decision on their own, and it's a smart decision, then that person is so much more likely to be a customer for life, a friend for life, a spouse, a wife, right? Whatever it is, whatever you're trying to sell, you know what I mean? And so, talk to us a little bit about your philosophy behind sales, because you obviously have not, you know, you started in door-to-door sales, but dude, you've built some insane stuff. I mean, you've built a $87 million revenue company, taking it to exit. You're taking right now, I think you said, Safe Space, an AI SaaS company, public on the New York Stock Exchange. You're a partner in an private equity fund. I mean, what's your philosophy around communication and connection, and how important that is, transferable across any business, right? Any industry.
Yeah, the principle, and this goes for everything I've done, and even now with the marketing company and DM outreach strategies, all these things we do come from the basis of acting interested before trying to be interesting, right? It's how do I make this about the other person, and then thinking about that client journey or that relationship journey of how that interaction is going to go. How can I remove their anxiety and all those different breakpoints before it even happens? It's kind of like traditional sales teaches you how to deal with objections. Well, why are we even getting objections? Let's think about how we can get in front of these things, make sure it doesn't happen. And now sales becomes fun, because if I have to sell someone on something, I'm not having fun. But if I'm giving a great presentation, I'm making a genuine connection, they can understand my authenticity, and now I'm just helping somebody get what they want. And then we got to keep people accountable with money at the end. That's really all it is. So that value exchange of at the end, if they don't just say yes, I mean, if there's logistical questions, sure, you handle those. But if they're doubting, like if you got a closing tactic on somebody, I just don't think you built the trust and you didn't give the great presentation, or you just are in the wrong vehicle that really isn't a differentiator from whatever else is their alternative option.
It seems like you've learned that through, kind of like you were saying, so much of, you almost didn't know what you were going to do, or like a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Just trying to figure out, okay, what are my areas of strength? How do I fit in? What am I going to build? And so did you have kind of a plan in your mind of, hey, I'm going to start, door knocking, and I'm going to grow this into multiple businesses? Or was, every step of the way just kind of unfolding? Because I'm just kind of wondering your journey, right? Like, at what point did you go, man, I'm an entrepreneur that can build, businesses worth tens of millions of dollars, right? Or did you just kind of fall into it?
I think I fell into it, and I've never done any of these on my own. That's, I think, one of the differentiators is understanding my identity, what I'm great at, and then making sure I attach myself to partners that are great at the things that I'm not. So I've never built anything from scratch on my own. I want to drive revenue. I want to be the relationship guy. I want to be the value add to this business, but I need an operator. I need someone who's got that type of brain. And when you join forces with the right people and you multiply that, that's how you can build a lot of things. And I've kind of moved more and more in that direction with all the new things that I'm doing. And that's why I can do a lot of things at the same time. I just have to perform in my area of expertise. And if I stick to that, my partners do what they're supposed to do, we can build a lot at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important point, because there's kind of a riding under the surface reality of what you're talking about that I think is important to bring to surface, and that's the importance of not just partnership, but making sure it's the right partnership, because a lot of people don't get that right. and it ends up not being, the success that you've experienced, but being the lawsuits, the headaches, the sleepless nights, all that kind of stuff, because you kind of married the wrong person in business. So I'd love to hear, one, have you ever gotten in a bad partnership? And then two, how do you kind of identify what's the right partner for me?
Yeah. I mean, for every success, there's probably 10 failures. Definitely been through the lawsuits, and the first time it happens to you, you're like, it completely crushes you until, a mentor that's further along than you says, well, congratulations, no lawsuits, no relevance. Now you might be in the game. It's like, you know, really powerful stuff. So those are just problems you have to accept. And if you're not willing to get hurt, like if I go into a partnership, everything sounds great, things aren't going right, it goes sideways, it's going to happen. Cut your losses and move on. It's going to happen. You are going to lose money. People are going to steal from you. All these things are going to happen to you. And if it doesn't happen, you just weren't playing at a high level. So I just accept that that's part of the game. And going through hard times with partners is when you really find out what you got. And I've had some great luck with the partners that I have now. That we've gone through some tough times in business together, and nobody broke. Everybody stuck together. And I now know that I can build anything with these guys, and there's nothing that could take us out.
That's so good, because it's everyone's great when the money's flowing, right? I've been in some partnerships, and obviously when there's cash coming in, there's no conflict there. But then when with the harder times, when whether it's money or just challenges, you can definitely see the true colors, right?
Yeah, I'm suing people right now. I'm being sued right now. It's just part of getting to levels where that's another thing about contracts and the way people think at it on the small scale. If you're selling a $5,000, $10,000 product, like it's going to cost you more than that to even sue anybody. So people that are so about their contracts and all this stuff, it's like, maybe when it gets bigger, right? That's why with our marketing business, it's generally low ticket. So we take all the friction out. We're different than every other marketing company. It's month to month. It's cancel anytime, no contracts, because it wouldn't even enforce it anyway. So why people are just shooting themselves in the foot in business and making it hard for people to do business with them.
No, that's a really good point, because I think you shared even a post on your Instagram channel, which you've got a baller Instagram channel, by the way. Everybody should follow you. But you shared a post about how it's like the $50,000 client. You remember that? I don't know. You shared that the $50,000 client's like, hey, here's the money. Let me know if it works out. The $500 client is like, hey, I need to discuss the contract. I need to go through I'm making a significant investment, or all that kind of stuff. So talk a little bit about, then those big ticket clients, like your marketing company, Kern's Marketing, right? I mean, your products and your services are not that expensive, right? So, talk a little bit about that philosophy, but also how you are selling kind of some lower ticket stuff as well still.
Yeah. So this was kind of born out of, the first business we had, Heartland Foods. We did all the traditional marketing. We had call centers, we had direct mail, TV, billboards, Facebook ads, Google SEO. Like we did everything. So I had a really, I guess, deep understanding of what marketing costs, what margins you have to have for the marketing, and how most people, when they're getting started, just simply can't afford to market like that. So moving into building my personal brand, and when we exited, I was thinking of ways like, okay, how does someone who's getting started that can't spend 10 grand a month on ads, like, what do they do? So I started just testing DM outreach strategies, organic content, direct messaging for networking and getting on podcasts, doing what we're doing right now. And then I realized for a very low cost, you could run a business, a solopreneur, whether it's a coaching company or even roofing companies. I mean, everybody should have a personal brand to drive whatever you want to do, whether it's networking or revenue. And it was astronomically lower in terms of marketing dollars to generate leads and conversions with all these methods. So I did a good year of testing of DM outreach strategies for the marketing company and realized you can sell a $500 ticket right in the DMs. If you go over that, price point, $500 a month or one time 500, then you got to get somebody on Zoom. So you want to have like a gap of, well, is it worth getting on Zoom for $800? Probably not. Right. So you start to learn all this stuff, craft the offers the right way. And then as long as you're DMing the right avatar and pulling them into an established brand, I mean, you can do, I mean, we built $1 million business off of this with no ad spend, and it took less than a year.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about the Heartland Food, just kind of going back, because I know what was your, I know you were talking about your first kind of, what saved you said was the door-to-door sales, because you learned so much about people, right? And how to interact with them. And that's so much of anything, right? How did you get into the food industry? I mean, that just sounds, it sounds random kind of, like how did you fall into that and then end up building that to a high level?
Yeah, it was actually a family business. That was my dad's startup company. And I was working in the warehouse while I was in college, just packing orders, 0-degree freezer, 8 hours. Like, that's not fun. Making $6 an hour, and then started driving the trucks and doing deliveries. And so I was kind of learning the whole back end of the business. But the whole time I was watching the two sales guys that were there, and they were making $100,000 a year. And at the time I was like, that is unfathomable. And I just dove into it one summer. And by the end of the summer, I was making more money than my friends that were graduating. And for the first time, I felt the self-worth that I was going to be okay in life. And I was like, this is my path. I got to just go all in on this. And I asked that top sales guy who'd been in the industry with other companies for 20, 30 years. I'm like, how are you beating everybody? What are you doing? He's like, well, I read, a book a month in personal development. I'm like, all right, well, then I need to do 2 so I can catch up to this guy. And he's like, I work 5 days or 6 days a week. I work Saturdays. Everybody else works Monday through Friday. I'm like, well, what about Sunday? So I went 7, right? And it only took me about 5 years to break every industry record and just do crazy numbers that nobody else could make sense of. And it wasn't because I was better than everybody else. It was just because nobody could outwork me. That was it. So I'm focused on the inputs of effort, whether it's calls or just showing up more than everybody else. It's very difficult to fail.
That is awesome and so huge, with just, I love that concept. The idea of like, anyone can outwork. It's almost like you can beat 90% of people by just working and showing up, and there's no formula to it other than just those inputs, like you said.
Yeah. It's like how do you become the strongest person in the room? Putting in the most reps, right? Like, that's it. And so if you're putting in the reps, you're gonna, like, you made a statement like, wasn't because I was better than all these guys, but the truth is you were better than all these guys, because part of success and being better is showing up and doing the freaking work. And that's what you did, that's what you've done, that's what you continue to do, and that's why you're doing things that other people never will, because they won't actually put in the work and actually do it. And so, man, I love that. So how did you, I mean, obviously there was Heartland Foods, grew that, 87 million in revenue, successful exit, all this kind of stuff. And did you learn this kind of personal brand build, social media while at Heartland Foods? Is that like while building that company, or was that something that came later on?
Yeah, it started late, right? A year or 2 before the exit. You could just see where the world was going. And I was not a person that wanted to be on social media. I mean, talk about anxiety. All the things that people tell me why they can't do it. I'm always nodding my head. I'm like, yeah, me too. Like,
yeah,
it's not unique to you. You just haven't done it anyways yet. So we started a podcast. It was all about organic food, farming, sourcing, regenerative agriculture, the breeds of the animals, why our food was so great. And we were bringing on guests in the industry. We did a solid year of that podcast. And I was trying to build the company's brand, which was a huge mistake. Right. And this is what a lot of people want to do, is they want to build the company brand on social media, but people don't follow businesses. They follow people. So once I made that little transition and started putting the content out on my personal brand and diving into that, that's when it started moving. And then pandemic hits out of nowhere, and we are in the perfect business for the time. Company exploded, private equity's calling, wanting to buy it in a bubble, and you got to take it, right? So now you got an identity crisis. I've done one thing for 10 years, and that personal brand to me was, I'm going to lean into this and pivot it into the next thing I do. I went into health coaching. I thought that was the next natural step, leaving organic food and having all the partnerships with all the dietitians, trainers, and gym owners that I was working with. I'd kind of seen all those programs. I'm like, I can take all the best pieces of this and make it into my own. And that's actually how I started my personal brand after that. It didn't last very long because I found the hedge fund world and raising capital, which is much more lucrative. And that's probably the biggest thing I learned about being in the food business, having, big infrastructure, overhead, utility bills, trucks on the road, lots of employees. You can be doing a ton of revenue and not be making much money. So my mind was, I need to find a vehicle that has monster margins, big ticket, where you can put in the same effort and have 10x the income.
Right. That's the leverage piece. I mean, it's finding, and I think what precludes so many people, I mean, and when I was kind of breaking into a similar business, we're not hedge funds and, that kind of approach. We do multifamily syndications, oil and gas acquisitions, private credit, that kind of stuff, right? But same concept, right? Raising capital, big ticket, help other people get, make a lot of money and make a lot of money for helping other people make a lot of money. I mean, it's like win-win if you do it right, and so, but with that, I think there's, I don't know, like I'm just imagining you go from like, selling in the food industry, which is like a commodity, a need, everybody's got to have it, to selling, in investment opportunities. It's like, was there ever a mindset there that I don't know enough multimillionaires to make this successful? Like, I don't like, how am I going to get, like that kind of feeling?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened is there's a concept. I want to write a book about this, and it's called forced innovation. The amount of people that got laid off from their jobs in COVID and had to figure something out and ended up a YouTube star or, in something that's 10 times better than where they were because they were forced to innovate. That's what happened to me. I would have done the food company forever if the pandemic didn't come around and I was forced to go figure out my next moves, which meant I had to spend money on events, networking, coaching, and then this whole new world was revealed to me that was so much larger and bigger than anything I had ever dreamed of. And now the goal is completely changed. And I'm like, how do I utilize this skill set I have and just move it into a much more lucrative vehicle? And that's how you end up there. So the principle that comes from that is, now when I get comfortable, I'm like, all right, I got to force myself to innovate before the marketplace makes me.
Yeah, we run an education company called Multiplier University. We basically coach and train people who want to move from, their current entrepreneurship business, entrepreneurial venture, whatever it may be, into, raising capital for private equity deals like real estate, oil and gas, that kind of stuff. And, one of the biggest hesitations, the reason I asked that question, is they're like, what happens when I get through my 10 guys that I know that have enough money to actually do this? Like, what's next, right? So I'd love to hear more of because a lot of those guys that we coach listen to every single episode of this show that we put out, right? And so walk us through your tactic of going, like tactically, how you actually broke into building more and more of those kind of high net worth, ultra high net worth relationships.
Number one is personal brand. Even being partnered with the people I'm partnered with, having access to even raise money for the deals that I'm involved in, came by building a brand and having an established authority. A lot of my partners now found me, right? So that's the first thing you got to do, is build a brand and then leverage it, right? In platforms like this. So this is what I did the first year raising capital. I knew I wanted to be in this world. I had already been investing as a limited partner in deals for a while. I was obsessed with CNBC for 10 years. All I did was read about finance. I knew I wanted to be here. Did I have imposter syndrome about getting around all these rich people that I couldn't make sense of the money they had? Absolutely. Did it anyways. So sent direct messages to anybody and everybody that had a podcast in the money world. Didn't care if it was crypto, infinite banking, life insurance, stocks, real estate, whatever. I was like, wherever rich people are listening, I want them to get to know me in a long form content manner and then come follow me on social media. That was my strategy. So I would go on these podcasts, talk about my deals. The inbound leads would come in, move them to Zoom, show them the opportunity, close the deal. Like that's how it was done. And then in tandem with that, it's all the events. I was at a different event every week. Like if you're not going to an event every week in your city, you're just not networking. You're not going to meet anyone. Nothing's going to happen. So it's a relentless pursuit of networking online and in person, and then merging those two worlds. If I meet somebody at an event, it's, try to give you a business card. What's your Instagram? Great. Follow me back. Right now they're indefinitely in my pipeline of stories and content forever. And my mindset was like that because I ran ads forever. Every time I get in front of that person with an ad, I got to pay for it again. You don't have to do that with social media. You got to capture their attention and follow one time. So that was it.
So, and then the idea is that your social media content, everything that you're putting out, like that's kind of part of the nurturing that relationship. At what point do you then, feel confident that the relationship is there where you can actually reach out and start kind of a more lean in conversation?
I mean, immediately, right? I think it's approaching, whether it's through DMs, you meet somebody in person, it's let's grab a meeting. Let's see what synergies we have. What are you working on? This is what I'm working on. Like you're looking for a marriage to happen.
Yeah.
That's based out of relationships. The more hands you shake, the more money you're going to make. It's just that simple. And people that have a bias with who they'll meet with or overqualifying in the funnel on the way in, I don't do any of that. Right. And that's how I'll tell you a story. Like, I'll go have 100 meetings and nothing will happen. And then one guy comes through my link and he's like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. We're on Zoom for 15 minutes. Wire's over $1 million. So I just kept showing up and I'm not worried about the results. I just know if I keep putting in the inputs, I'm going to win eventually.
Yeah. I think a lie that a lot of people in this space believe, and I know this because I have a lot of conversations, is that, well, rich people aren't spending time on Instagram. Have you heard that? Have people said that?
Yeah. I just laugh.
Because it's not true.
How do you know? Like, where did that bias come from? Oh, so you quit before you even started. Now you got an opinion.
Exactly. It's excuses. Yeah.
Well, so much of what you're saying too just comes down to just pure execution, right? Because what you've shared is, these are good strategies and ideas, and we hear these things, but people don't do it. And I think that's kind of what's coming through for me in your talk and everything you've shared, even from the sales at the beginning, is just doing the work, right? And not even worrying, not even getting caught up on, will it work even? Or is it the right, just doing it and kind of figuring it out as you go. And if it doesn't work, then stop doing it and do more of the thing that's working, but just that execution. Because I think that's what separates, so many people. Because I think anyone, like you said, anyone kind of can do it. That's why you were beating the other guys in sales, not because you're even better at sales, but you were putting in that work, right? And then eventually you got better at sales because of those reps, right? So what's your thought on that, I guess, with, people who are listening? I mean, it's so easy to listen to podcasts, listen to what you're saying now, read books, but then people don't do the work, right? They don't consistently show up over long periods of time.
Yeah, I think they're just not genuinely curious to figure it out. They're looking at a linear equation of if it's worth it to keep going. And I think that's why success is so rare. I mean, I just see it in every business, especially the marketing business, the people we work with. Like if you're going to quit on something 30 days in, don't even start. It's just, someone that says like, okay, it's $1,500 to do DM outreach. If I don't make $1,500 in the first 30 days, I quit. You will never be successful at anything if that's your mentality. Like there are people who are buying from me today that I sent a DM to 2 years ago. I'm not doing an equation of the spend. I just know I need to meet more people and good things will happen.
Right.
And so it's pivoting, not quitting. If it's not working, it's okay. What do we change? Is it the copy? Is it the target? And you keep pivoting until it does work.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love that mindset.
Yeah.
Of just the abundance and not getting so focused on all the analysis paralysis, right? You've heard that, where people just get so caught up on doing the right stuff instead of just doing something.
Yeah. And I think, the value that you've given our audience, a big takeaway, I think that everyone listening, can learn is there are so many different ways to leverage social media. Your way of doing it is engage with the right people intentionally, DM outreach, you're sending, 500 or 1,000 or however many new DMs every single month to new people that are in, your target avatar, and you're just starting conversations. And that takes a lot of work. And it's like, well, people are like, well, I could do that. That seems like, it would work. They believe you. But then to Aaron's point, like they don't actually, like the reality is if you're listening right now and you're, it's like, oh, the light bulb went off. You're like, oh, this sounds simple. Like I could do that, right? DM people, get on podcasts, start more conversations, use social media in that way rather than just praying and spraying content out there and hoping that people actually care about what you have to say. But it's you lean in and start the conversation. But the reality is most of the people listening will hear that, they'll write some stuff down in their notebook, and then they'll keep doing crap the exact same way. And I think that that's an overarching principle of like, well, when you see that, you realize everyone wants to be a serious action taker like Justin freaking Freishtat. Like everyone wants to be an action taker like that, but not everyone will be. And the reality is what you've done a really good job at with your marketing company is identifying those people and saying, hey, like you may not do this, but we'll do it for you. And I'll monetize the thing that you won't actually value and take action on. And you pay me and we'll do it for you, right? So I know there's people out there that are listening that would love to do that. How do they do that, Justin? How do they get you to build their social media brand, build their influence, do DM outreach, and help them, grow their business and close more clients?
Yeah, I mean, we literally give away the game for free because my whole thing is I want you to know exactly how to do it. And if you want to do it yourself, go ahead and do it. And if the time is more important than the money, then hire us to do it. Because the reality is anybody where the time is not important, like they're going to do it on their own anyways. They weren't going to buy from me. Right. So again, I'm giving away the game. And the way that it works, like you can't go straight to DM outreach. It won't work. You have to build the brand first. So we use celebrity partnerships, influencer campaigns to leverage people who have millions and millions of followers to put the following onto your page. So we can grow a page 100% money back guaranteed, no bots, real people, 10,000 followers a month. You do that for 2 or 3 months, get up to 20, 30,000, and you're putting out content and it's going through our content distribution channels where we have all these influencers sharing your stuff. And you've got all the vanity metrics and you got a blue check and your bio looks good profile picture. You get all this congruent and then you start DMing, everybody's going to answer because now you're established. The venue, the lens that someone meets you in is the most important thing. So if you get to speak on a stage and someone watches you speak and that's how they meet you, you're in a place of authority. They meet you from a podcast, you're in a place of authority. They meet you on a social media page that's branded and credible, you're operating from a place of authority. And that respect that you get is the difference of them answering your DM. It's the difference of getting on a call. It's the difference of charging more for what you do. Perception is everything. And you should be thinking about this, especially if you're someone who's doing something awesome in the real world. If your brand online does not match the player you are in the real world, you're leaving brand equity on the table. You got to fix that. It's going to be a game changer for you.
That is so good. Man, I feel like you've got a lot of stuff that we could continue to talk about. Maybe we'll have you back on the show again in the future and we can, continue the conversation. But want to jump into the exit round. We ask the same 5 questions of every single guest that jumps on the show. Excited to hear your answers to these questions. So I'll jump in with the first question. What is your all-time favorite business book?
Man, all-time favorite business book. This is going to be tough. I hate to say it, but the cliche Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think that one changed my life the most in terms of mindset of getting into business at all.
Yeah, a lot of people, have that book as their favorite. So, all right, question number 2: what percentage of your current income is fully passive? I know you're a worker, so you're active, but if you were just to step back.
At this moment, not very much. It was great until interest rates went up. So It's massively fluctuates depending on what's going on. And, I have a lot of equity and shares and things that I could liquidate to get passive income if I wanted to. But right now, I would say 80% of the income is active.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely better than a lot of people. So that's awesome. What's one
I
thing?
prefer it to be mostly passive, but it's got to be a certain level
But you like
first.
it's not you like working though. I could tell you're probably not. You're never going to want to be the passive guy. Even if it was 100, you'd be like, all right, I want to double that and get another 100 through active.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's one thing that, Justin, that you wish that you could do more of, but kind of your business commitments and stuff like that kind of holds you back?
For me, it's definitely the health and biohacking side of things. When you're
Yeah.
traveling as much as I do, it's hard to eat healthy on the road. I'm obsessed with health. So, I could fill up most of my day with biohacking activities, from PEMF mats to infrared sauna, cold plunge, the workout itself,
Yep.
massage, like the recovery. There's no end to what you can do to be healthy these days, and I just wish I could do that all day long.
Who's that? What's that guy? This is an aside, but the guy, he's been getting a lot more tracks on social media. The guy that basically lives in like a freaking clinic and all he does is biohack stuff. He spends like $2 million a year on his body. What's that? Have you seen that guy?
Yeah, I don't know his name, but I know
can't
who you're
remember his
talking
name.
about.
Oh man, I'll have to remember his name. But
I think LeBron spent like 1.9 million. This was his like annual budget, for all of his recovery and supplements.
This dude takes like a gallon of supplements every day. But anyway, yeah. Next question.
Yeah, I'm pretty heavy on the HRT peptide world. I've got a healthy budget for the.
Yeah, man, no, that's awesome.
If you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self about starting a business?
Yeah, I would say fail harder, go bigger, and nothing that you think is important is a big deal. So, lose everything a lot of times on your way to figuring out what works earlier. If you're late teens, early 20s starting, I just see everybody does this. We all try to protect the most when we have the least, and it's completely backwards.
That's really good. I love that statement. We all try to protect the most when we have the least. So true, man. So what is your strategy? And I'd love for you to share, one or two strategic tips. What is your strategy for creating time freedom and financial freedom for yourself?
So I have an interesting take on this. I think you need to look at two buckets. We need to look at, long money and short money. A lot of people invest for the long term. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but to have, one of the concepts is to be a cash poor millionaire is really limiting, right? And I ended up in that situation by making too many long-term investments and not having enough cash flow. So I want to look at those two buckets, and that's how I build my business now. We've got a marketing engine that, people pay every month. So that's stable monthly cash flow that can sustain my bills, pay my life. And then I'm working on these big projects. There's like when we raised money for Flexport 2 years ago, put 3 million in that one, we're not going to see a paycheck for 3 to 5 years, but when we get it, it's going to be massive, right? So you want to have these big checks coming at different points in your life, but you have to focus on that fast money engine to sustain your lifestyle.
Absolutely. No, that's really, really good. I definitely resonate with that, and kind of even how Aaron and I and our different businesses are building. We've got businesses that are focused on long money, businesses that are focused on short money. It's fantastic, man. Well, listen, I know we're wrapping up the show here, Justin. I know for a fact that there's going to be some of our listeners out there that want to get connected with you, that want to learn more, that want to hire your team to do their social media marketing or whatever. What is the best way for them to get connected with you?
I'm on all the socials, but if you want to get a hold of me the fastest, it's definitely Instagram.
Instagram, and that's just at Justin Freishtat, right? Justin, Freishtat. I get it right?
Yep.
Come on.
There's only one of me in the world, so it'll be easy to find.
There you go. That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I appreciate you being on the Exit. Any closing thoughts, final words, anything like that you want to throw out to our audience before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've been reflecting on lately is through going through really hard problems, you actually become someone that you can be comfortable living in your skin. All the things you're worried about going through are actually holding you back from becoming the person you can become. So if you're scared to do something, just do it. Don't dwell on it. Like keep doing it. When you get to that uncomfortableness, because that's what we do. We go, we hit it, and then we plateau when we hit the level that we thought of. But you're never going to create past the distance you can dream. And you're never going to get to your dreams if you focus on them. So you got to have these big dreams, but only focus on your next 24 hours of execution. If you can get that dynamic down, you just end up in wonderful places.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Man, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure.
All right, everybody, if you enjoyed this episode of On the Exit, be sure to subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, check us out on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, check us out on Spotify. Share this with somebody you think will receive value from it, and go right now and follow at Justin Freishtat on Instagram. Reach out. He's going to bring a lot of value to you. All right, guys, see you next time.
See you next time.